Hi, blessings everybody. Today is the 7th of October, and I'm here to share with you some visions and some words that the Lord gave me that has started in May of this year with the initial vision, and I didn't understand it at all. So I sat on it for a long, long time, and it has only been in these last few weeks that the Lord has prompted me again. And interestingly enough, on Saturday, I was, during the night, I heard the Lord say these words: "It's time for a query." And I knew immediately that He was offering to give me some information about any of my dreams or visions that I felt I needed to get some clarification on. And of course, I went into a spin thinking, oh, but Lord, there's so many I don't understand. And then I realized there was one particular vision that I had been thinking of in the last few weeks because it had come up again. And so I did. I asked the Lord about this vision, and He gave me more information. Amazing, isn't it? And the whole thing is really amazing what He has revealed. Um, And so, brothers and sisters, it all started in May with a vision of the stern of a ship, a big old sailing ship like this one, which is called the Endeavour. And what I saw that night in the vision was the stern of a big old sailing ship, a galley. And it was actually more in a drawn fashion or a caricature fashion than it was in real life, because what I saw on the stern were three men dressed in old time clothing with old time weapons in their arms. Each man had a weapon in his arm, like old shotguns and that sort of thing. And there was another part to the vision, but I will not share that because I'm still not sure about it, but at some point I may. But on that day, I also wrote in the bottom of my diary entry that I had seen branches. And I put a big question mark beside it because I thought, what has tree branches got to do with this old ship? The whole thing just puzzled me. And here we are months later, and the Lord has brought it up again. Now, the reason that it had come back to my mind was in the New Zealand news at this very moment, there has been a lot about the ship called the Endeavour, which was sailed across from Britain and Europe to New Zealand 250 years ago. And he was the first captain who brought the white man over. The Maori were the indigenous people, but Captain Cook came and he sailed around New Zealand. He did a circumnavigation and he did a lot of charting of New Zealand waters, and he also had confrontations with the Maori. So interestingly enough, there has been a little bit of angst about this visit, even though it is to commemorate 250 years since Captain James Cook came on the Endeavour. There has been a little bit of stirring in amongst the Maori who weren't entirely happy with the way they were treated when Captain Cook was here. Brothers and sisters, can you see on the bottom of the screen of this article it says the Endeavour has been called a death ship, and that's because there was fighting between the Europeans and the Maori during this visit. So this is what brought it back to mind, because in that first entry in May in my diary, I actually had written that the stern of the ship looked like the stern of the Endeavour. So it, of course, when I saw that the ship had come to New Zealand, I immediately thought, wow, what's going on here? So, brothers and sisters, now I'm showing you another really strange picture. And the reason I'm doing this is because when God asked me what questions I had, I immediately said, "Oh Lord, I really would like to know about that sailing ship vision and what it means." And immediately after asking that question, the Lord gave me a vision of a man's leg, the upper thigh, and what I saw was a melanoma. And this is a picture of a melanoma skin cancer. And many of you will know just how serious a melanoma can be. It can be deathly serious. And as I was looking at the leg, the melanoma spread across the entire thigh. And of course, I realized that the Lord was saying that this vision was a very serious one indeed, and that the consequences of it would spread like a malignant cancer. Now, straight after I had the vision of the cancer, I heard the number 8. I heard it very clearly, brothers and sisters, and so I wrote that down. And of course, I had to look up what number 8 was in the Strong's Concordance. And as you can see here, the Hebrew word is obed, and it means destruction. But there was a whole lot more explanation here, and I'm just going to go to the bottom half of this page. Okay, so this is more explanations on what the Hebrew number 8 means. And in that first paragraph at the top, it speaks of the father of the tent sitting at the door of the tent and watching the road for approaching strangers. And I think this is really important because just as that Endeavour ship brought the white man to New Zealand and they had weapons, and the Lord has explained that it is this serious, I think it's what he's saying is there's stranger danger coming. And what he is saying is there are people coming from different ethnicities coming to the countries of the world, and there will be attacks. Now, I'm going to explain why I feel this way because the whole picture just keeps building. Now, if you notice on the next line down, it talks about separate. The number 8 can mean separate, and it says anyone or anything that is alone, apart or separated from a whole or from something else. And that immediately made me think of another word the Lord gave me. And he gave me the word one night, enclave. And brothers and sisters, I had to look that up. So I'm just going to show you what that means. So an enclave is a portion of territory surrounded by a larger territory whose inhabitants are culturally or ethnically distinct. And brothers and sisters, so it's a group of people who have put themselves aside in their own community and are quite different culturally and ethnically from those around them. And just keep that in your head because there's more. Just one other thing I did want to share with you about the word enclave. It came to me immediately, that word that I was given a few months ago. And so I thought, I wonder if this is linked. So I started to flip. I went to flip in my diary, which has got so many entries in it, brothers and sisters, and you wouldn't guess, but the first page I flipped to and the first page I looked at, there it was, the word enclave that I had been given from the Lord. It may be a coincidence, but I do not think it is. And the other thing that I wanted to point out there, and I'm just going to try and point to it. Can you see here that it can also mean branches or a staff made from a branch? Do you remember that in the first vision I saw of the stern of the ship, I said at the bottom of that page that I had seen branches, and it had just really puzzled me. Isn't it amazing how the Lord knew that I would be looking this particular number 8 up months later, and he has given me confirmation by just that one thing alone about the branches. And just so that you can see the veracity of what I'm saying, I'm going to show you my original entry. So there you are, everyone. You can see that there was the very quick scribble drawing I did of the 3 men holding old-time weapons, and I said each man had a weapon. And there you can see I also wrote, I also remember seeing bare tree branches somewhere. And then finally, everyone, well, not quite finally, but the last thing that I heard on Saturday when God asked me what my questions would be, he gave me these words: Tank Loaf 2016. Now, doesn't he puzzle me? Constantly, the Lord puzzles me. I'm sure that he must have a sense of humour sometimes. But, you know, brothers and sisters, I wrote this down in faith because it seemed ridiculous. And I thought, what has this got to do with a ship? Tank Loaf 2016. And I puzzled over it, and then I realised suddenly that the Lord might be referring to a vision that he has given me in the past. And it said 2016. And I thought to myself, I'm not even sure if I had any visions and dreams back in 2016. So I went back to my first diary, and I've got 3 diaries that I've written in over the years. And sure enough, in 2016, it seemed like my dreams and visions started in July, and I only had 7 entries for the whole of 2016. But brothers and sisters, guess what? One of them was about a loaf of bread. I couldn't believe it, and I'm going to show you my entry from 2016. Now, I'm not going to even filter this at all. I'm just going to let you see it as it is, because I believe it's significant that the Lord has led me straight back to this. And I've said here, I'll read it. In my dreams, I remember 2 things: seeing the ISIS lettering, firstly, just appear before me in the air, and then on a flag. Then I saw a loaf of bread cut in half, and inside was neatly carved out to make a hole to contain something. My immediate thought was that it was a hiding place, or could it be symbolic of Jesus bringing the bread of life, and that we are to hide in him? He will protect us if ISIS attack. So everyone, I know that seems probably a little bit disjointed, and I'm going to try and tie it all together. So initially there was the picture of the stern of the ship with the strangers that had come from a far off land with weapons. That was the first vision. And then I was given the word enclave. And that came just on its own, that word enclave, which means a group of people that are separated, have separated themselves into their own little community, and all the surrounding people around them have ethnic and cultural differences. So I think the Lord is pointing to a group of culturally separate people who are going to pose stranger danger. They may come from afar off to other countries and cause harm, and they will carry weapons. Do you see where I'm going with this, everyone? And I hope you can see how the Lord has just provided miraculous ways of confirming all this. I'm sorry, everyone. I didn't realize it was still recording. I beg your pardon, but rather than start all over again, I'm just going to continue. So I'm just about done, but I thought also that there was no coincidence in the fact that I saw branches of trees without any leaves, um, on that first vision of the stern of the boat. And once again, when I looked up the number 8 in Strong's, which was given to me very clearly on Saturday, it mentioned the branches. That number 8 could mean branches. So I just think that was another confirmation from the Lord that this is from Him. And how amazing that He led me back to that 2016 vision, just like that, in an instant. And and then what is it about? It's about a culturally and ethnically different group, ISIS, and about attacks from ISIS. So, brothers and sisters, just to be particularly joyful, though, we know that we have our hiding place in Jesus Christ, our Saviour. He is there for all those who will turn to Him. We need not be afraid because He is our defender and our protector.